So my name is Olwen Mosley. I'm the director of the Cardiff Design Festival, and I'm very pleased that it's almost over, but it's been good, and I hope some of you have been to some of the events. But we're really thrilled. We've got this great relationship with D&AD, and I can't remember whether this is the third or fourth time, or even more than that we've had these events during the Design Festival, where we invite D&AD to come down. They bring some fantastic speakers with them, and they brief you on the competitions that are coming up, and then some of you who have booked will be having portfolio clinics with our local design community and guests as well. So it's a really great way of understanding more about the industry that you may well be working with in the future. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome you, but also to welcome Jess from D&AD, who's going to be your chairperson and see proceedings through from here. So can you give her a big welcome, please? Welsh welcome. Warm welcome.
Hi everyone, nice to see a lovely full house. Thank you, Olwen. As Olwen said, my name's Jess and I work on the education team at D&AD. Today we've got a fun-packed programme for you, starting with our talk, and then we've got a workshop this afternoon, and then also portfolio surgeries. And I think most of you are pretty much signed up for at least one of the events we're running today. So I'm actually going to start pretty promptly so that we can hear what's going on. But as I said, these are the times. We're doing 11 to 12 for the industry talk today, then 1 till 2:30 for the student awards workshop, and then 3 till 5 for the portfolio surgery. If any of you forget those times, just grab one of us and ask us along. Just to do a little bit of housekeeping, in between events, we're probably going to ask you guys to leave the space for a little bit, go and grab a cup of coffee or something like that, so that we can set up the next space. So don't get too aggro with us if we're sort of rushing you out quite quickly, but we'll want you to come back. The ladies and gents are just to the back over here, and then you've got them on the different floors as well. Our exits, we've got the lifts and the stairs. And on that note, I'm going to start and introduce you to Louise Fowler, who is going to start our talk, which is the Making Your Mark, How to Stand Out in Creative Practice. And she's also going to tell you a bit about D&AD for those of you that met us for the first time. Okay, thanks Louise.
Hi there, I'm Education Director at D&AD. I'm going to talk to you first of all a little about D&AD generally, and then sort of principally about the student awards and a brief that we have called Make Your Mark. So first of all, D&AD promotes creative excellence. I expect most of you in the room knows about sort of D&AD and the awards, and it is the awards that we're sort of best known for. We've been going for 50 years, and the awards are often referred to as the Oscars for advertising and design. There are many other awards and many other competitors, but the Yellow Pencil is still known as the one that creatives want to win, and the Black Pencil is the one they really, really, really want to win. The standard expected for a Black Pencil is so high that some years we have none handed out at all. I'm just going to show you a short film of some of the winning work from the last 50 years.
this is trouble.
This poetry is not party political, not designed for those who are critical.
So, a quick snapshot of the last half century of creative communication as the lens of D&AD. But now on to you. I'm just going to share with you a few quotes about the D&AD Student Awards. We found recently that the D&AD Student Awards, best of years and above, really sort of do stand out in terms of sort of getting a job. In fact, 76% of student award winners walk into a job or placement within 3 months of graduating. We set the briefs in partnership with leading brands and practitioners. Last year, this included IKEA, Rankin, Little White Lies, and Google. And the briefs of 2013 will be live soon, mid-November. One brief we know will be included again is Make Your Mark. The Make Your Mark brief asks you to think of the employer you've wanted to always work with. So in a way, you're defining your own sort of target audience and positioning yourself as the brand. The most effective creative communications make their mark. Think about what inspires you, what motivates you to be creative, to do what you do. And Make Your Mark brief is open not just to those of you in further education or higher education, although I know that kind of applies to most of the room today. It's also open to anyone within 2 years of graduating or under 26. We have on our website a new section that we've developed in partnership with RJ Wiggins. This is called 1 Minute to Make Your Mark, and I'd sort of recommend that if you're interested, you have a look here, because there's lots of sort of leading luminaries from advertising and design talking about how effectively you can make your mark in a short time, because literally you don't have much more than 1 minute to do just that. I'm just going to share with you one of these video clips from Tony Brignall, an award-winning copywriter.
I didn't ever start with a complete blank sheet. I like to go to the client, I like to meet the client, I like to go around the factory, I like to see them built. I like to talk to the workers, I like to talk to the engineers. I like to get a lot of facts and information down. If it's a car, for example, I like to know how thick the metal is that they make it from. How quickly does the rear windscreen warm up in winter? I like to know all those silly little things. And then I sit down and I think, what can I possibly say to somebody who's not in advertising, but I might meet in a pub? Or even my mum or my auntie, that would persuade her about this. I would originally, before word processors had come in, pin each new version around the wall. Every day I would write another version of it. Not necessarily totally fresh, but changing it slightly, so I could see how it grew and changed. That was the only way I could do it, was to keep working at it, keep chiseling away, keep working at it, until I felt I'd got it right. As to the actual writing itself, I would say treat adjectives and adverbs as if they cost £500 each, but verbs are free, and you have to pay for them in advance before you use them. So make sure that you don't use adjectives or adverbs unless they're absolutely necessary, and you pay for them. And commas cost £50.
So there's one point of view on how to make a mark, and I guess there's probably some writers in the room, but that kind of sort of applies to sort of everything. Those of you joining us for the workshop later have the opportunity to work on the Make Your Mark brief, as that's the one we've chosen to work on. And next year, if you're an exhibitor at New Blood, you'll also have an opportunity to make your mark, albeit in a different way. Just as sort of student awards connect education with industry, so does New Blood. Our membership and community kind of contains all the kind of sort of leading industry practitioners. They're all invited to New Blood. And last year, just at our private view, 82% said they had a job or placement on offer. And then last but not least, I just want to tell you a little bit about our Graduate Academy. This connects back to the student awards. If you're lucky enough to sort of win a student award or be nominated, you'll be eligible for interview to participate in the Graduate Academy. It's an intensive creative boot camp. First year we did it was 1 week. Last year it was 4 weeks. Each summer we're going to continue to do these. We're looking to sort of develop the sort of creative leaders, and sort of it's a springboard to get into industry. Anyway, don't take my word for it. Here's what some of the attendees from this year had to say.
Okay, the first week of the Grad Academy has been amazing, really intense. Love it so far. I haven't had a chance to draw a breath yet, but it's been incredibly interesting.
I didn't expect to be doing what we have been doing. It all started off very spiritual, which was quite odd.
So overwhelming in a great way. It's been more than I could ever imagine it would be. It's been very intense, very busy, but that's how it should be. There hasn't been a moment to pause.
I made a giant fountain head that was also a sword. I think because on the Grad Academy we're all looking to break into the industry, kind of leading the charge. And I guess my weapon, if I was going to try and fight my way in, would be my pen, because I'm a copywriter. So much fun, and like the last 2 games the breeze have been amazing, and working really fast and furious, and it's just been, yeah, really creative, really good, really fun.
Okay, so that's it about D&AD. Some dates here. The briefs are live, like I said, mid-November. Then entries will be due in 20th of March. Results will be due come out from mid-May onwards because we're judging them. And then finally, our ceremonies at the beginning of July, which coincides with New Blood, which is 2nd to 4th of July in London. I want to say a big thank you to Cardiff Design Festival, Olwyn in particular, for inviting us today, and also to our speakers who've joined us to sort of talk to you about how they got into industry. And I hope that D&AD will be sort of with you, not just throughout your education, but your whole sort of creative career. Thank you.
Thanks, Louise. So now you've had a bit of an introduction to what we do and what we're all about. My main message will be, now that you've had this information, keep in touch. We're there from now to you break into the industry and long afterwards. So we look forward to having a relationship with you. On that note, I'm going to invite John, who's our first speaker, Head of Design from D&AD in Bristol. So if you'd like to come up. And lovely round of applause.
Good morning. I'm just going to set a timer, so I've got strict instructions. So yeah, my name's John Shaw. I'm the head of design at a digital agency called D&AD in the Bristol office. I don't know if anyone here has heard of the London agency D&AD? No? Yeah? A few nodding heads. Okay. This is, there's the logo. This is the first for me, speaking to probably over 100 people. So I didn't necessarily have a presentation about how I got into this business. Sat on file waiting. So this is the first. Whether it gets shown again, you can be the judge. For me, the main part of what I'm going to try and do is give you a context about the work I've been doing over the last 15 years, which will hopefully inform any questions you have now and some of the workshops today. There's a little bit in here about D&AD itself, but not a lot. Obviously, if you want to ask specific questions about D&AD, the agency, I'm quite happy to answer those. Also, they've got a website which is informative. So we'll start. Education, constant. I graduated from Nottingham Trent University in a classic graphic design course. This being the mid-90s, the idea of what graphic design was broadening all the time. New media, as we described it, involving far more platforms and disciplines. I started to concentrate on moving image, animated design, animated graphics, which is a good lesson in itself, the fact that you set off with a predefined idea of what you're going to do at college, and then subsequently a predefined idea of what you're going to do in a job. And those are always changing, and 15 years later, things are still changing, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. So I went down to London, dragging behind me a large portfolio which had your standard typographic layout work, which I'm sure you all have, plus storyboards and a few short films. And I was lucky enough to be given an opportunity by some friends of mine who set up a small agency in Soho. And I was asked to produce a couple of short films which were to go out on a creative review CD-ROM, as we used to use. Also to be showcased at an animation festival at the ICA called 1.0. So from this, I created a relationship with this agency, which wasn't really what I was looking for at the time. They were very much looking to design websites, and I, as I said, was concentrating on animation. So I straight away had to be flexible and respond to the opportunities that I was given. So I stayed with them for 8 years in total, and quickly started producing websites which in those days were quite animated, experiential things, not necessarily the way they exist today. And we were lucky enough to be invited to work with big global brands, 007, MTV. This one in particular, was all about pushing boundaries. and it's something I think is really important, is never assume what a preconception of a piece of work is going to be is how it should finish, how it should turn out. You know, that's why eight young guys in a small office in Soho managed to attract clients like 007 and MTV, was because of that approach and that attitude towards briefs. And I'd like to say I've got a D&AD pencil at home, but I don't. We've applied for a couple, never won one. But as a group of people, we did manage to win a couple of awards. The MTV website, we got a BAFTA. Now the reason this slide's in here really is to show you that it's a collaboration, all this work you do. You know, at your stage, when you're going through college, you will occasionally be put into groups, but you also do a lot of work yourself, thinking about it, developing it, and then executing it. In reality, it's very much a team effort, and that's something that, as an employer, you're always looking for in individuals, is that understanding that you've got a job to do within a team, and it's only collectively that you'll really get success with a client, a brief, in this case an award. So okay, we got some confidence, clients had confidence in us, we had confidence in ourselves, which is another really important facet to have. Again, relatively small group of people, but we got to work on another high profile piece of work. Again, pushing boundaries. I mean, this one, for example, the entire website was full of animation. You know, we actually created these living spaces in a room in our studio, and each day we had to come in dressed in all black with balaclavas on and act out these little lifestyle scenes, which were then converted and used throughout the website. At the time, you know, people made quite a fuss of it because it was innovative, and that on top of the previous work, you know, kept big clients involved in what we were doing and supporting it. Okay, doing all that on time. I put this slide in because this isn't really a client brief. You know, we didn't get sent a piece of paper. Okay, here's the client, this is what we want to achieve, this is what we've got to try and deliver to an audience, here's our target market. This was the culmination of just some technical wizardry that one of the developers in the studio had been playing with. And we were invited to go down to the Design Museum. This is just when the Design Museum opened. So this white box outside the Design Museum, they showcase small bits of creative work in there. And this particular one was a succession of Motorola phones, which you could dial, and they would all ring in sequence, which would create an animated sea of screens flickering on and off, you know, which was visually a beautiful thing, but borne about by quite a sort of nerdy technological sort of process. And that concept of development and research is important in pretty much every business and every portfolio. You know, the exploration, which will also, you know, take you on as an individual and to be honest, the industry as a whole. Okay, then challenge. I did 8 years at that small agency. We grew. I was art director when I left. I fancied a new challenge, so I started up my own business in London, working with some good clients, Burberry, local ad agencies, and a local West Country brand as well, the Prime Minister based in Bristol. I think the idea of challenging yourself, obviously something you need to take through everything you do for, you know, a succession of years. That way you develop, that way your brands and your clients challenge themselves as well, and it's all part of building that relationship. So now I'm here in the West Country, living in Bristol, working for predominantly digital agency, so quite different. I don't know if any of you have started to understand the difference between ad agencies, digital agencies, creative agencies. You know, they've got a lot in common, but they're very much are about executing ideas within the digital realm. So a project will go beyond concept into Facebook, Twitter, all the social mediums, and they all come together to deliver the idea. One of the things we do as an agency, we try and, obviously it's a bit of a pun, but we dare to go compare. Personally, I don't really like this guy, and a lot of people don't. But when we were pitching to win this client, we're the first agency Go Compare have actually had, and we're the lone agency with them doing all their campaigns above the line, which is basically print, advertising, TV, and also digital. Our pitch document for this was to tell them that the country hated this guy, and that's how we won the work. We told them that the face of their brand was hated by pretty much 90% of the populace. But that transparency and honesty, that won us the work. And because he's obviously a very important face in this brand, you can't just kill him off directly. So that's why, as you've probably seen, this campaign is slowly trying to kill him off. And you know, that's something that a lot of clients don't necessarily get, is that honesty. I think for you yourselves, when you're approaching people, you know, be honest about what you're there to achieve, and be honest about what you can do for them. And that way, you know, you'll get a relationship that you can build on, whether it's an individual or an agency. And I suppose a good little tip, when you do meet someone that you have a rapport with, sort of feed a few contacts out of them, get a few names, you know, and then you can name drop, and that instantly creates a context with someone else. So if you go and meet Spencer over there from Taxi, and he likes your work, maybe Spencer will say, "Well, go and see John in Dare," and instantly there's a context to your portfolio. And even if a particular relationship or meeting might not deliver a job or a brief, it's all those small relationships that over time will build up and they'll create a momentum. Right, I think all that's left to say is thank you for listening. I hope it's been helpful, and I was on time.
Brilliant, thank you, John. That is a wonderful pearls of wisdom. I'm going to move very quickly on to Spencer, who's going to offer some more nuggets, I would say, of advice. Again, just to say that we'll have a bit of time for questions and things afterwards, but do feel free to kind of pop your hand up and ask a question. Today's like really informal. It's about kind of, you know, getting to know us as well as us getting to know you guys. So brace yourselves. Okay, Spencer.
Hello, thank you very much. Great presentation, John. We actually have shared sentiment in that being daring or courageous is one of the best assets that you'll have in your armoury as you progress through your career. Like John, this is the first time I've spoken to a large group of people, and I was also at a wedding yesterday and got fairly drunk, so please forgive me if I stumble a few times. Okay, so the story of Taxi Studio started back in 1995 when myself and my two partners graduated from Somerset College of Arts, and we swore that we would one day start an agency, although it took us a good 6 years to get ourselves in that position. I moved to London and worked for an agency for a couple of years before deciding that London really wasn't my thing. My now colleagues went off and ventured into careers in the local area. We are all from the southwest, so it drew us all back eventually. And in 2002, we started Taxi, actually on the 3rd of June, which coincided with the Queen's Golden Jubilee. So it was very, very nice that everyone had flags out for us, and there was a fair bit of fuss made. And what's slightly unusual, I think, is that we are 3 best friends that work and have worked together for over 10 years, because we had a consultancy, or we worked at a consultancy before Taxi. And then when we saw the opportunity to challenge ourselves and make a start for ourselves, we set up with a hell of a lot of ambition, a little bit of talent, a fair bit of luck, and a couple of clients was kind of promised to come with us but didn't make any absolute guarantees. So we really set up on a bit of a wing and a prayer. And our first year in business was something of a fairy tale start, because we hit the ground running. We had a very good first year's trading, and within that first year we were recognised by Shell Livewire and were awarded Business of the Year for the South West. We didn't win the entire thing, but to give you an idea of the size of this particular award, it was won by Innocent Drinks about 3 years before, and you obviously know where they have ended up now. So it was a very nice start for us, and the following year saw us break into Marketing Magazine's top 100 design agencies, albeit at number 99. We still thought it was quite an achievement to get recognised for being an agency, I guess. You know, we didn't really think at the time that we would amount to the sort of the ranks of being regarded as a true agency or a serious agency, because we were 3 dickheads pissing about doing creative work and getting paid for it and having a good time, which is another important thing. The career that you'll go into isn't curing cancer, it isn't doing massively worthy things on a grand scale, but you are there to serve a purpose, and that is to produce great creative work, to oil the economic machine, and to enjoy yourselves. You know, it's a serious business, but you shouldn't take it too seriously, which sounds contradictory, but you've got to remember that you aren't, brain surgeons. You are there to create great work, have great fun, but my advice would be not to treat yourselves too seriously, because there are people in the industry that can disappear at their own backsides a little bit. So I think the sensible thing to do is just a sense check where you're at. 2005, we became regarded as the UK's #3 packaging agency. This was with Design Week, who you will be familiar with, albeit it's now in a purely digital form. And we had a very good run in the awards circuit. You know, we are award whores, don't get me wrong, we love entering awards. We enter D&AD regularly. In fact, we call it our annual donation to D&AD, because we, like John, have not won a pencil, but we are still striving very hard to. The closest we've got is an in-book nomination, which, believe me, the day that happened, we punched the sky, because just to build upon what the guys are saying, this is the Oscars. You know, make no bones about it, there are some great award ceremonies out there, and they will all profess to being the best, but D&AD really and truly is the pinnacle. So if you land it, celebrate it, because it does open doors, you know, it really does, and clients will come to you because of this, you know, make no bones about that fact either. Okay, so moving on. 2006, another good year in business. We're still here, and we were thankful that we were still operating as a company. We grew in staff numbers very slightly. I think we're now 8 people. Ryan, my co-creative director, and myself, we became dads in that particular year. Lots of sleepless nights, and timely enough, we landed a brief from Coca-Cola. They phoned us up and said, hi, this is Coke, we've got a brief for you. And Alex actually responded, as it says there, he didn't quite believe that it was Coca-Cola on the phone, nor could we. but it certainly was. And we took a brief to design some new products for their flagship energy drink, which is called Burn, which you probably don't know of unless you've been to France or to Europe, which is certainly where it's distributed heavily. So we were keeping ourselves awake at night by drinking lots of energy drinks. So Ryan and myself were very pleased that we were working on that particular product. Then, which is not a strange coincidence, as soon as you get one big client under your wing, and we had a couple before, such as Clark's and Summerfield, which is now merged into the cooperative, the phone starts to ring. You know, it's simple maths really. Our strategy from the start was, let's do great work, let's PR ourselves as much as we can, and let's win some awards. And those simple ingredients start to generate a bit of hype and interest, and the phone literally starts to ring. So by the time 2007 came around, we were working on projects for every one of the clients that you see on the wall. They are all still clients today, because you will hit disagreements with robots with some, and some you will enjoy working with and some you won't. And the important decision to take at those moments is, if you're really not enjoying a project, or you're not enjoying working with a particular client because they're giving you sleepless nights, or they're destroying your confidence, which is another point that my colleague has. You know, confidence is everything to a designer. If you don't feel confident, you won't project confidence. The clients buy ideas, but they also buy your ability to stand behind them. There are other forms of testing confidence, and there's one particular dark science called market research, which you will find yourselves involved in throughout the process of your career. And it has a purpose and a relevance, but it is also a mechanism for destroying confidence if you let it. You know, but the point is, design is in some way subjective. Great ideas actually aren't. If a great idea is great, it will become great, and people recognise it for being so. So moving on to 2007, we got in the book after so many years. We were awarded an in-book status. We also won 22 other awards and an Epic of Silver, which held in some significance, because getting in that book was actually the one thing that we truly celebrated. And we've now got a lovely little slice of pencil that you can buy. And we made sure we did this year, which is something that turned up with, I believe, did for you guys. In 2009, the three of us decided, and I think we're about 14 people by this point, that we had taken us as far as we could go as a company. We were three creative people running a business, and it was a proper business. We had serious headcount, serious turnover, and we had to make some serious money every month in order for people to pay their mortgages and, you know, put food on the table. So we took a brave decision, and the brave decision was that we decided to buy ourselves a boss, which sounds strange because we effectively brought someone into the business that became myself, Ryan and Alex's direct boss. Okay, we've got the power of veto, we could send him on his way if we didn't like him or didn't think his ideas were good, but we felt the need to involve someone in the business that had more experience than we did, and the ability to control our creativity and add some strategy. Strategy is another huge thing that you guys would be involved in your careers. So Brian, I poached from an agency in Australia called Blue Marlin. You may or may not know of them. They're a packaging outfit that have an office in Bath and a couple around the world. And he was seduced by the chaos, I think, and the fact that we say it as we see it. There are very little airs and graces, very little hierarchy in taxi. You don't really walk in the door and know who's boss and who does this and who does that, because it's a very collaborative atmosphere, and we don't sit in big glass boxes. We all have a very open plan studio. So he joined us, and since then the business grew from strength to strength in terms of numbers, you know, sort of 20 to 30% each year since he's joined. So in 2010, and this was kind of in the middle of sort of deepest part of the recession, which is something you've all been exposed to and aware of, we decided to buy our business premises. We were able to do so. The timing was right. So we created ourselves a permanent home, and in 2010 we bought the premises, smashed it to pieces, rebuilt it, and it's a good job we did, because the premises is often a signpost to who you are and what you do, and ours was kind of a charming shithole before we started. It was kind of a bit rough and ramshackle, but when clients came, they bought more into us than where we were. But the flip side of that is, if you start getting some serious knocks on the door, you need to have a premises which looks the part, you know, a mix between ostentatious and, you know, a bit shabby was where we ended up. And in 2011, Carlsberg rocked up, literally, came in, saw us, saw what we did, very much liked the look of us, and decided to start working on some fun projects with us. And so did these other guys, pretty much in the same year. So we're now working with a lot of projects with Craft, a lot of projects with Carlsberg. That funny word there actually says Baltica, which is Russia's biggest brewery, and Golden Wonder, and if you may know Oriflame and Western Belt ice cream, which we've recently rebranded as an ice cream called Jolly Nice, which I'll show you in a minute. So, where I started with this presentation was it's important to have fun, and we reached our 10th year in business this year, and we decided to have fun. So we took everyone to Barcelona back in June, and got fairly drunk, and the rest I can't remember, to be perfectly honest. But we were 10, we had a good time out there. And the reason this slide's here is that I wanted to talk to you about branding, identity, your own identities, and how we came about Taxi. We've got this little device which is actually new. We've evolved our identity over the past couple of years. This is the absolute last and final iteration, established in 2002, and our brand positioning, similar to D&AD, is fearless creativity. It's not necessarily new, but it is the two words which really sum up what we tend to do. So why have we got a honey badger, and why have we got a little snake? Well, predominantly, you may have not recognised that. I've given it away, but that is a little honey badger. Does anyone know what a honey badger is, what it does? No? Good. I've got a little video which explains.
This little beast has made the Guinness Book of Records as the most fearless little animal in the world. With their distinctive jog trot, honey badgers can range over distances as great as 40 kilometers a day on their hunt for food. Insects, rodents, birds, all are consumed by this animal, reputed to be Africa's most fearless. Incredibly tenacious, they hunt constantly, barely resting between kills. These terrors are very well adapted to the digging lifestyle.
So, it looks a bit scary, but what struck us about this particular creature and where we drew a parallel is that we see ourselves as a very small company, and we are comparatively. We're only 23 people at the moment, with no aspirations to become super huge, because to us it will become impersonal. We like the fact that we know everyone's names and what their kids' names are and where they live. But the honey badger is a little creature which has a lot of might and a lot of determination, and that really summed up our journey as a company and as individuals. So, we are creative to our core, and I'm going to show you some of our work now based upon our design principles. We call them our 11 commandments, because 10 would have been far too normal. Oh, that's our stress is running. We are 61% creative. That is to say that 61% of us are creatives, which is important to us and our business. And in fact, even our finance manager, who's a fiery South African lady, is a photographer, and she was recently exhibiting her work in quite a posh do in Paris, which was fabulous for us and for her. And to have a finance manager who you would deem to be the most, mundane person in a creative industry, a creative business, is also creative at heart. So, we have won to date roughly 130 design awards and a D&AD certificate, which is in the back there. That large fruit bowl in the front is probably America's one of America's top design awards. It's the New York Festival's Grand Award for a piece we did for Science Museum, which I think is in this deck. And as it stands in our studio, it does serve as a fruit bowl. And this is the thing which kind of makes me laugh with design agencies. A lot of people win them, and then they'll put them in the toilet or display them somewhere ludicrous, which has always made me laugh, because we enter awards because we love to win them, because they give us a sense of pride, and it also is a nice way of telling the world just how creative you are, and also attracts people into your business. So when agencies display them in weird places, it does baffle me, but we display ours with pride, although we do use that as a fruit bowl because it very much looks like one. So our 11 design commandments, I'll quickly rattle through some work. Am I doing all right for time? Yeah? Okay. So our first commandment is design shall be engaging, and the first piece of work I'm going to share with you is a piece we did for the Science Museum back in 2004 or 5, and they approached us with a brief to design a brochure to sell the Science Museum as a place to hold corporate events. We ignored the brief entirely. They didn't need a brochure. What they needed was a collection of little experiments. You know, the Science Museum, if you've ever been there in London, is a place where you can get involved and do stuff, and it's very much fun. So a brochure wasn't going to be true to their values. So we created 8 or 12 of these little brochures, ranging from this piece up here, which is Making the Modern World, and it was about Dolly the sheep and D&A. So we had this little sliding thing. When you slid the thing across, it created a duplicate sheep. And they were a collection of little experiments that were fun and engaging, and really sold the museum as a place of interactivity. And that piece was the one that won us the about 20 awards, actually. Number 2 is keep things simple. A hard thing to do, because design is a balance between too much and too little, and that fine line is really where great design is. This is a piece we did for Summerfield, and the idea was to follow the convention of pickle packaging, where pickles were shown on the end of forks. So we did the same thing, but put them on pitchforks. And this is a photo shoot we actually did in and around Somerset, using real people. And we've got a little village idiot who's our mixed pickle, and an old lady with very grey hair, and she was our silver skin pickle. So that was good fun. That won a few prizes as well. Distinctive, Clark's C and J. You may spot it. There's a C and a J making the ampersand. Again, boiling it down to its simplest form, this is Clark's brand for what we call the grey market. So your dads or granddads, and it activates in this these little strap lines, footloose and fancy free and styling comfort. Next point is appropriate. And this is a piece we've recently done for Carlsberg. It's a new cider that launched into the UK about 2 months ago, and it's intended to hit Strongbow head on. I don't know if you drink cider, but Strongbow is bloody awful. Somersby isn't. It's a very natural tasting cider. Fearless. Well, a little bit of fun. You've probably seen this if you've been shopping in Tesco, where we did these little packs, which are still on the shelves today, which is quite extraordinary, because Tesco and all the other multiples change their packaging like they change their underwear, but this has endured for about 4 or 5 years. Okay. Unexpected. This is a piece we did for Smirnoff, which was a sales tool to sell Smirnoff Black to the on-trade, being bars. And this was a little book that had a little flask. You've woken up, haven't you? That little flask at the end, and it was concealed in the back of the book, and was given away to bartenders and things. Aspirational. This is a piece we just did for Coca-Cola, a brand called Tumult, and it is a slightly sparkling adult soft drink. It just looks really sexy, to be honest. There's not a great big idea behind it, but it just looks sensational. And sometimes that's what you might find. What strive for ideas, that sometimes just doing something which looks really nice is permissible. Flexible. We did these range of chocolates for a crazy inventor, chocolate maker called Willie Harcourt-Coos, who had a series out on Channel 4 a few years ago, and we created a branding system for him, whereby the middle word was swapped out to represent whatever product he was selling at the time. So delectable were his chocolate bars, and Willie's Supreme Cacao were his little cylinders of pure cacao, which you could grate into coffee and things. Since been redesigned by an agency called Brand Opus, and they've done a really lovely job of it. It's just it'd be worth checking out actually if you go to Brand Opus's website and see what they've done versus ours. They've moved it on and made it a bit more, or they've simplified it, you know, but they were working to a different brief to us. And I think sometimes you have to be honest and recognise that someone's done a nice job of redesigning something you've already done. This is a piece we've just done. It's a brand of ice cream called Jolly Nice, a local ice cream entrepreneur called Harriet, and we've created a range of packaging for her. There's about 6 or 7 ice cream products, and they've all got lovely little stories on the back. And if you go to our website when it's relaunched in the end of this month, don't look at the one we've got now because it's not as representative of where we are at. But certainly please check us out after Halloween, and you'll see a bit more of that project on there. Okay, I'll wrap up very quickly. The last 2 is memorable. You must try and be memorable, you know, yourselves when you're going to interviews and also the work that you do. And this is a little piece we did when we moved studios several years ago. We did a little gift for clients, and it says "Watch Taxi Move," and it's one of those little pens where if you move it, the taxi moves. So literally, we moved from one side of the bridge to the other, and that's what the pen did, and that got us into Design Week Awards and a few others. Okay, and finally, clever, but not too clever by half. So a good rule of thumb is too clever, too dumb. Remember it because it'll serve you well. If you try and be too clever, then you'll end up getting it wrong invariably. And we think we've got the right balance with this. This is an identity for a company called Monastic, which you won't necessarily know, but what you will know is what they do. What they do is write TV shows for ITV and other companies. And did you ever watch Ashes to Ashes or Life on Mars? The guys that wrote that are behind this company. And what it is a pen nib, because they're writers, but because they're called monastic, they're coming together in prayer, which you might see if you spot it. And what we'd like you to take from this presentation is, essentially, be fearless. Push your ideas. Don't be afraid to challenge. Don't be afraid to challenge a client's brief because they don't get it right half the time. They come to you as experts because you will be experts. And no doubt some of you are experts now. Just start believing in yourself and be fearless. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Spencer. Again, a wonderful presentation. We've got a few minutes to ask some questions or just to say hello of our guys here. So on that note, first and foremost, can we have a round of applause for our speakers today? And now you're all hands warmed up and ready for your clap. Are there any questions that you guys would like to ask some of our speakers? And don't be shy if there's things that you're thinking about in terms of helping you go forward, even in just this afternoon's workshop, some of the work you're doing today, asking a question about, jobs. Please feel free. Are there any questions? There we go.
I was just wondering how your company was, if say somebody wants to come and approach you for a job, how would you grab your attention? Yeah.
Well, interestingly, it's kind of what today's workshop's about. You can take a very maverick stance. I know people that have camped outside agencies in tents before with the express purpose of grabbing a creative director as they walked into the door. That can be a bit intrusive. I think the thing to do is to understand the company, and if you know anyone that knows the key points of contact, it's just to kind of drill some information out of that person and find out what floats their boat and what doesn't. At the end of the day, great creativity will get in front of creative directors. Exercises like we're going to go through today will be invaluable in kind of bottoming out some of the good ideas and some of the not so good ideas that will get you in front of people. But the fundamental rule is just have a great portfolio and don't give up.
Definitely add to that sort of sense of
being tenacious and actually not being afraid to call up and sort of make yourself be known.
Yeah, we've had people that have badgered us and badgered us and badgered us, and eventually you don't give in, but you just think, okay, you know, the book's good, but the fact you're really putting in a lot of effort is what we're after a lot of the time, because you can take an average book and make it brilliant, but sometimes you get people that have amazing books and they are not as driven as you'd like, because to be a junior in an organisation isn't a case of you've landed, it's like day one, and you kind of got to forget where you've been, because the transition between a university or a college into the working life is very different. You don't get 3 weeks to do a piece of work, you might get 3 days or 3 hours sometimes, so it's that transition, and if you demonstrate a drive and a tenacity, those are skills that will really carry you far, you know, because you can develop your creativity as you're going on. And that's what we do. We are there to guide and nurture talent and draw the best out of people.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got
one. Oh, one at that over here.
It's just a question really about both from an awards point of view, but when you're looking at student work, student portfolios, are you more impressed by good ideas or by technical proficiency in terms of the finish of the work that you see?
Sure. Answer?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question. Good question. Yeah, it definitely changes where you work. I mean, Spencer here has built up a business from the start. I've probably worked in 3 businesses over 15 years, and they are different. I mean, Dare, for example, it's a digital agency, and the ability to execute an idea to the desired level of craft in the desired amount of time is important. But I think what's more important, you kind of hope that's going to be an asset everyone has, and before that you just want to see an idea that's translated across all the media types that it's going to need to be used in, and students that can show that thinking, you know, to go beyond just a poster or a campaign, to show how it will translate on the web, on mobile, and it's all those facets working together within an idea that will shine to me. Admittedly, then the question will be, can you use Photoshop? I mean, that will happen. I would have thought most people can, but you know, if you're starting out as a graduate, we had a graduate from Western start with us last year, and she was pretty proficient in software, but we put her on a training schedule. We didn't actually give her any client work for 3 months. She's now just about to complete her first year, and she's, if I'm honest, already better than some of the older people in the studio. She's been brilliant, and she didn't walk in the door with those skills. So you've just got to show, you've got to make sure it's right for you, it's right for them, you know, and that honesty will come across. Like Spencer said, if the portfolio is good and the book's good, then it's just about, can you work together, and that's quite a personal thing. You only really understand when you sit with someone. And the technical, to directly answer, the technical thing can come later, but you've got to show some enthusiasm and ability to do that.
From the awards perspective, the kind of at a professional level, the criteria are great idea, well executed and appropriate, and then that kind of sort of feeds down into the student awards as well, but we say rather than appropriate, sort of meets the brief. And sort of notice that Spencer said in his presentation about the appropriate, and taking the sort of go compare idea, that's a sort of a great idea, but it's because it's executed so well that it sort of really sort of is actually appropriate and meets the brief, and it works ultimately. So I kind of think, you know, well, from D&AD perspective, it's about everything sort of working together.
Yeah. And don't be under any illusion, the idea is 10% of the effort. Crafting that idea, making it happen, is where the sweat actually is. And you can sometimes have a great idea that just will not execute, and you've got to build the skill to identify when that's happening, and then drop that and move on to something else very quickly, because you can hang on to this thing for grim death, thinking, yes, you know, I've got this beautiful idea, and if it doesn't execute well, then forget it.
Would you say that sometimes that great idea, it's not necessarily something that has to die, you can sort of put it away in a box somewhere else and it might come useful?
A different, because you're talking about the sort of a percentile shift. It might be a great idea, but that great idea can apply to another client down the road. You know, it might just be as simple as storing it and waiting for another opportunity to bring it back. And we've done that before. You know, if it's not, and it's a feeling, you know, there's not quite a fit with the client in that case. It might be great for the category or the service that the client's offering, but if it's not tailored uniquely for that client, then you've got to drop it.
Sounds like that sense of fearlessness and being brave about letting the idea go.
It is as tough to let an idea go. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Any more questions? All right then. Right, okay, well I'm hoping that you guys having a bit of lunch and stuff will get you sparked up for the next part of our event. We break for lunch now, and we come back at 1 o'clock for our workshop. If there's any more questions, I'm going to ask one more time, because I don't want anyone to feel like they didn't get a chance to ask some more. Okay. All right then.
Here today there's an artist working called Anton Hecht. No, got that wrong. Hecht.
Bless you.
That's fine, thank you. He's working, it's an interactive piece, and he very much wants people to participate. What you have to do is down on level 2, I think there's a piano or a keyboard, and it's a question of striking a note. So that's a simple, and then it gets incorporated into the artwork and it's projected outside on the big screen. So anybody's welcome to have a go. He's particularly keen to have people with large rings on, because that kind of lends a bit of variety, but it doesn't preclude you from doing it if you don't. So don't go and rob a ring from someone just to do it, but do participate. And I'm surprised that there aren't more questions. You evidently, yeah, there you are. You're kind of satisfied that you know everything that these people want to ask you, but shall we try one more time? Is anything, any half question going on in someone's mind that they feel they'd like to articulate at all? Yes.
Not really a question about the mission. Do we have to sign up for the workshop to do it?
Ideally, yeah, because we have, it is kind of full, but if you hang back and just sort of put your name down, if there are anybody that hasn't showed up, then sure, you can join us. The workshop, as Louise mentioned earlier, we're going to be doing our Make Your Mark brief, and it's about kind of working in groups and putting some of the points that both John and Spencer mentioned today into action. And we're going to push you a bit, but it's all in good fun. It's all in an effort to kind of get a taste of what it's like to try and approach one of our briefs. But yeah, do come in and join us. And you know, you might have been a bit shy this morning, but both John and Spencer and a sort of massive collective of other designers are coming to join us for the portfolio surgery this afternoon as well. So if you need a bit more time to think of questions, or you want to say a few more things, they're going to be here all day. Any more? Okay, one more over here.
You mentioned that doing a job for one client, say a big one like Coca-Cola, leads on to many more. How exactly does that work? Do they then just talk amongst themselves, or do they see your work and then come after you, or do you then go probing for more potential larger clients?
It's a mixture of things, because people invariably that work in marketing departments will move positions fairly frequently. It's rare for someone to stay in a position for more than sort of 3 years. Right. So they'll take you with them if you work well with them, and a lot of what we do is down to chemistry. You know, who you get on with, who likes you, who you like. The other avenues are called PR. You know, people know when you want awards and stuff. then your name quickly spreads. But ultimately, people will take you with them if you do a good job for them. Because what we do ultimately is make people look good. So people in marketing positions, we deliver a product to market and it makes them look good, then they get promoted. It's simple people-based stuff that works a lot of the time.
It's probably one of the key themes of the business, isn't it? As much as you're making.
You're in your career will make people's careers. That's the thing. If you do a piece of work right, the ladder, the corporate ladder, which is an evil game, don't ever get involved in it. But the corporate ladder spreads very, very high. It goes very high, and you can help people jump that by doing a good job.
Yeah, there's one more.
I just wanted to ask you a question about the day.
Sure.
I signed up for the portfolio session, but I don't actually appear to be on the list today.
Say that again?
I signed up for the portfolio session this afternoon, but I don't appear to actually be on the list today.
Just pop your name down. We've got plenty of room. Just let us know who you are. We've got it's more about putting yourself in the slot, and we'll do that. So don't worry about that. We've got plenty of room. All the events are going to basically happen in this space. So as I said at the top of the day, we will ask people to kind of give us a bit of time to put things together. But if you go to the back where the registration desk was, and just sign your name up again. So sorry about that, but yeah, there's going to be room. Don't worry. So like I said, the next part of the day we'll move swiftly on, so you do get a bit of time for lunch. There's loads of places around here, so hopefully we've picked a good place for you to go have a bite to eat. But the next bit is the workshop, and that's at 1 o'clock, and it will be back in here. And if you haven't signed up or you'd like to be part of it, just hang back or come a bit earlier, and we can see if we can kind of fit you in. And yeah, about come just about 5 minutes or so before 1. And then at 3 o'clock we've got the